My name is Tomasz Chamorro-Premuzik. I'm the Chief Talent Scientist at Manpower Group and a Professor of Business Psychology at Columbia University and UCL. And I just wrote this book published by Harvard Business Review Press, Why Do So Many Incompetent Men Become Leaders and How to Fix It? And I'm here to discuss the book. This book is about the pathological disconnect or gap that exists between the attributes that seduce us in a leader, confidence, charisma, and even narcissism, and those that are needed to be an effective leader, competence, humility, and integrity. So I try to explain why this gap exists and how we can focus on competence rather than confidence to both improve the quality of our leaders and have more women in leadership. The key findings from this book are that basically organizations are not that data-driven or meritocratic in their leadership identification efforts. Politics tend to trump data, even when organizations think that they have good systems in place to identify and improve leaders. Most of the times they don't even measure leadership effectiveness, they only measure the individual success that leaders achieve. And fundamentally, if organizations want to improve and outperform their competitors, they need to align their leadership identification and development practices with the science of leadership. There is a big gap today between what we know on leadership potential and what most organizations do around leadership potential. If organizations want to get better at their kind of leadership identification and development practices, there's three main suggestions that the book makes. The first is to follow the science and look for the qualities or traits that make people better leaders, especially when they don't usually make people leaders. Second is distrusting their instincts. In today's data-driven world of AI, big data, there's no excuse for playing it by heart. And the third one is to not lower the bar for women, competent women who wish to become leaders, but to raise them for men who are not competent and are still being picked or nominated for leadership positions. What makes this book different from other books? Well, I think every book is different, right? But there may be two things that are unique or at least unusual about this book. The first is that when people talk about gender and leadership, they focus a lot on gender. And either they focus on the social justice, kind of fairness argument, which concludes that we need to have more women in charge, which I personally agree with, but it can often backfire because it gives the impression that that's unrelated, if not mutually exclusive with meritocratic systems. Or it kind of asks women to behave more like men by leaning in and emulating the behavior of men. This book is unique in that it makes the point that most leaders are not just male, but also ineffective, and that women, by displaying a more feminine leadership style, can actually be more effective than the average man. I think this book is important for HR practitioners and talent management practitioners because there is so much discussion out there on diversity and inclusion, gender diversity and leadership, and a lot of it is not based on data. So what I try to do, even though it's a short book, is to summarize all the knowledge and the research that is out there from empirical studies and connect that with the main thing that businesses are trying to achieve, which is not just to have more women in charge, but actually to be more effective. So in a way, it's a good book if HR professionals are trying to bridge the gap between science and practice. And it's not an ideological book. It's a very data-driven and sort of agnostic from an ideological perspective book. So I hope they find it useful.